Rocco says, can you elaborate more on loose leash versus tight leash? You've been in scalp mode the past 2 days, and your stops yesterday seemed to be very tight. Today, your first, everybody has the same question here. Today, your first trade long had a stop at the bottom of A period. Seemed to be loose leash for scalping, where I would assume scalp would mean more of a tight leash. So a couple things to address here beyond what we've already talked about. Number one, this was the entry this morning long was actually a narrative trade. It was actually, we put a DMI, we had a bull zone. We had kind of gone through that area overnight and we're stabilizing. This was not a scalp. This was a real NADRO trade. And I didn't feel comfortable that I had a good enough backstop, something to lean on right below my entry. So I decided to enter with less size and simply kind of scale into that position and take some profits, scale out as I'm scaling in, just as you saw me do. So that wasn't scalping there. That was a real trade. And that's why ultimately in the core position, you see I gave it a real stop per my plan for that A period excess once we morphed into that after A period into B period. My plan to stop out initially was the weekly kind of 1.5 area, which we almost went to, right? And so I just gave it wide room to push an extreme on the weekly and stay within that trade, staying loose with prior value, things like that. So that's a little, when I talk about tight leash, loose leash, it's in regard to profitable trade management. That is exclusively the only way that I reference those terms. And so just to kind of recap those real quick. If we take a rotational entry long of DVA, if it's tight leash, I'm going to give it only the most minuscule, tiny chance to go imbalanced. Like once we get here, like this thing doesn't need to come back in here, right? It needs, or maybe here, right? It needs to really go imbalanced, right? Or we're out. And so if it comes back down into here, we're out. That's a tight leash that we gave that trade. Medium leash would be something like we'll keep the trade on as long as we're rotational, right? I'm not going to force it to stay in balance. So tight would have been out right here. Medium's not out. It can come all the way back. We don't care. But once it goes confirmed imbalanced up here, now the stop comes up and we have to maintain imbalance. That would be like a medium leash. And loose leash, as you might could guess, would be we could go imbalanced. I'm not going to bring that stop up into there. I'm going to keep that stop way down here, right? I'm going to give it a full loose leash, long leash, probably is the proper term, or the proper analogy I should use. Different kind of conditions. We've seen, huge news-driven sell-offs. We've seen choppy, grindy moves. Was asked as a thread I didn't get to. So if we're gonna go with our little imbalanced pullback here, maybe this like the RTH priority number one, looking for ETH, and this profile is somewhat